The diversity of different ways that people are creating with AI. It's not just push a button, but you see so many different styles and genres and even just approaches to creating with, right? So I've seen people who use uploads and they'll start from playing an instrument or they'll use their DAW and they'll create some sort of loops and they'll upload it and they'll mix it and they'll change it and flip it and reverse it in all the different ways, right? Some people are very lyrical in how they write and poetic in how they write their lyrics. Some people do instrumentals that are just like, whoa, crazy nuts. There's so much richness. At the end of the day, AI it's more of a tool. It's more of an instrument in a way that you can play.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Matt from AI DIY. AIDIY.tech is the website. Today is another community feature, someone that's in the community that's us. I know we've got crossover between all our AI music communities, but this is somebody that's very prominent in a different community, which has live events, I think, on a Sunday, and came across me when I was invited to that community and just seemed to be really pumped about the music that was coming through. And I said, I've got to get to know that dude and I've got to interview him. This is Itai. Itai, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks so much for coming on the show. I want to thank you a little bit more, actually, because I tried to get you on a live stream a couple weeks ago, and you
Mm.
said I can't. There's a pride event going on. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. I didn't realize it was a pride event going on right now. And you said there's a pride event happening always. So that means there's a pride event happening right now, and you're still
Always.
taking the time to be on this podcast. So I'm very honored and excited for that.
Well, it's Pride every day here, and I'm so glad to be here, Matt. Thank you so much for the invite. And I've, of course, like we've been in similar circles, and I've seen your shows and everything that you do for the community. So I'm just thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled we got to meet and chat in the other events, and yeah, and have a conversation together now.
So there's so much to go through. As you know, I've done a little bit to prep for this interview. Actually, one of the things I didn't do. Usually, I'll spend an hour with ChatGPT. You pretend to be that person, and I didn't do that with this one. I just thought, your community mind, like everything I know about you, is you're very similar in the way you're thinking. Is you want the best for people that are out there. You want to, like, I know, like I like to say, like, look, people are afraid to put themselves out there. Just give them a bit of space to do it. Go ahead and talk about the way you approach that, because actually talk about your community a little bit. Like, what community do you run?
Well, I'm a member of a number of communities. One of them is the SSC, which has been one of the longest ongoing. Um, well, I think we're calling it the social song contest now, but like the song contest where people basically bring their AI music songs, and we get together in these live streams where people listen to each other. We have Discord servers where people get together, comment on each other's songs, etc. And then we do community voting for people to kind of vote on their favorite songs. But it's we did the seventh season of SSC this summer, and it was like the whole summer long, like 10 weeks. It was very long. We had 400 songs from all around the world, lots of different countries. But the biggest thing is people just connect when you hear somebody's song from doesn't matter where in the world, but you hear them talking about their lives, whether it's sadness, loneliness, happiness, love, relationships, work, whatever it is, and you're like, wait a minute, that song also speaks to me. I also feel the same way, etc. People build connections around that, and people get to see that no matter where you're coming from, we're all human beings and we all share similar desires and thoughts and everything. And the power of music to make that connection is incredible. I think this is one of the strongest drivers of connection that I've experienced in my life in general, but definitely over the last
Totally
years.
agree. Yeah.
I think of all the different social media that's out there, supposedly connecting us. There's nothing like this. Getting together live to listen to other people's music, hear them through that, getting to express yourself very directly through the music that you write and you put yourself out there, and having other people hear that and comment and connect to that. I've made friends through these kind of events all around the world that I guarantee if I happen to just by accident land in their city, I could crash on their couch for a whole week and they'd be thrilled about that.
Yeah.
And the same has happened here, and some of the folks in this community like Timuth and Sebastian that we become really great friends through the music, through that, through being in the space together, and through doing things together to advance this.
Dude, I know I'm very manly and I've got I throw off alpha vibes, but as you're talking, I'm getting a little bit emotional. I'm because it's so true, man. Um, like I know you read through all the messages that get submitted through your side. I read through all mine, so like you and I are pretty unique in the space where we know what a lot of people are going through, and we know the reasons that people write the music, and if they use AI to assist with getting their feelings out, it, you know, for us, we don't care because we know the impact that it has, you know. And I guess that's like it's very tempting when to basically lash out at people that are saying like you don't know shit and AI writes all your stuff and you don't create anything. It's really tempting sometimes to lash out back because like in my experience, like it's very offensive to me because I see what people are writing and I see the reasons why they're writing. Tell us your feelings about that because like I said, I think we have the exact same experience with reading stuff that people aren't seeing because they're not doing it publicly. Like it's coming through my website and I'm reading their accounts. Like in from my understanding, you do the same.
Yeah. Well, I'll share it through my story of how I got really into the music,
Please,
making
yeah.
music with AI, right? You know, I've worked in tech for years, and AI has always been, especially when generative AI came out, it was like something very exciting. So I kept on top of like everything that ever came out. And when Suno and music models came out as well, it was like, oh, this is a cool thing. Let me try it and see what it is. And I'm part of this very active AI community here in Miami, and we would meet regularly every week to talk about all sorts of different things in AI. And I made, and when music came out, like I've been a musician my whole life and everything, and I got back into it and trying to use all these tools to make music. But that was just kind of cute. It didn't really hook me at any point until one of those contests that actually happened almost 2 years ago, SSC in its third season, where for the first time I had a space where people were actually listening to my music, to music that I made. And I
Mm.
submitted a song, and then I heard this other song from this other lady who lives in Sweden. And her song was something about a breakup. There was something about it that was just like so good, so incredible. And we started chatting and we started collabing. And next thing I know, we were collabing, and she gave an idea for a song. We were going to collab on it. I wrote a song. I wrote the song and sent back to her, and she's like, "No, this song is done. It's like it's perfect. You should just submit that." Great. I submitted that song. Somehow that song won the next round of SSC, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And not only do I have people who listen to my music, there's people who like my music.
Mm.
That's kind of crazy. But what happened then was about a month after that, I was on a trip in Mexico on this beach in a remote place. And I go there with my friends to disconnect from everything, from the internet and whatnot. But for the first time in my life, besides music that I love that I downloaded and brought with me, I had music that I made. And I was walking there on the along the ocean and the waves, and my song came on. And suddenly I heard it, this song that I had submitted to this contest. I was doing a collab with my friend on it, and it just came on. And suddenly I realized, wait a minute, this song is about my life.
I remember our first meeting when you came out of thin air. Your presence was magnetic, and I got caught up in your snare. We danced all night till morning in that magical ballet. I knew I had to follow you, or you'd be on your way.
Whoa, wait. What? How is that possible? This
Yeah.
was her idea, something about chasing butterflies. But I'm sitting there listening to the song. I sat down on the sand because I was stopped in my tracks. And I was saying, this song is the story of my life. And I started crying because
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how is it possible that in this like song, something so true came out about my life with my husband, our travels around the world, moving from place to place. Like, what? How did that happen? I never even intended for that to happen, but it was just so clear right there. And I started recognizing that actually all of my songs, there's a piece of me in them that's just very genuine, who I am, my viewpoint on the world, and anything that I made is just coming out, whether I wanted to or not. It's coming out in that music. And I started noticing that actually in all these contests that we do and all these connections that I made with people, they're being very honest and very genuine about their lives as well. So anybody who's writing a song, their sadness is true sadness. Their,
Mm,
their feeling of loss is true loss. And people are just through the AI finding a way to express that,
yeah,
you know,
I
and
agree.
that
And and the thing is, like, one of the things I've been trying to articulate, and you can probably articulate it better than me. It looks like you were starting to, is people are learning how to be creative for the first time, to tell what's inside of them, in a way that's sort of metaphorical, and like in a way that other people can connect. That's not directly like their first songs are usually pretty straightforward and obvious, but then I basically just say, good man, just keep going. Like, your first song is your first song, and just keep going. And people are learning how to use AI, and then usually, like even with me, I'll start a framework with ChatGPT. ChatGPT doesn't know exactly what's in my heart, so I'll sort of
right.
modify. And I think that's what most people are doing, is they're leveraging AI to to get themselves into this space, especially later in life, because people, their lives got away from them. That's beautiful the way you told that.
There's two things that come to mind as you say that. One is just a diversity of different ways that people are creating with AI. It's not just push a button, but you see
Mm,
so many different styles and genres and even just approaches to creating with that, right? So I've seen people who use uploads and they'll go and they'll start from playing an instrument or they'll use their DAW and they'll create some sort of loops and they'll upload it and they'll mix it and they'll change it and flip it and reverse it in all the different ways, right? Some people are very lyrical in how they write and poetic in how they write their lyrics. Some people do instrumentals that are just like, whoa, crazy nuts. There's so much richness. At the end of the day, AI is it's more of a tool. It's more of an instrument in a way that you can play, and you can play it so many different ways. And just
mm,
seeing that, I've sat in so many of these sessions that I am in awe of what people are able to make with it. And I'm like, it's just I'm struck with this feeling of like I could never reach that level of artistry.
mm,
Now, the thing is that it's so different for every person, the way that they create with it. And so it's not about reaching their level because that's not the way that I create. It's
mm.
my way, and everybody has their own way. And I think what's so nice is that AI allows any person anywhere on earth to be creative in their own way, and
Yeah.
it doesn't take over. It's not like a button that you know gives you the common denominator of everything. Not at all. It allows people to be themselves through that.
Well, well, that's what I like, is the variety. And we'll talk a little bit about those watch parties, because maybe some people that are tuning in and watching this thing don't know what a watch party is. So it'd be good to give some context around that. But I
Sure.
want to just talk quickly just about like you talk about, everybody uses AI in a different way, and that is a very meaningful thing, right? Like, because I know there's the True Rock Alliance is one of the discords that's out
Yeah.
there, one of the communities, and they're all full what we call in Australia here musos. They're musical people, and they upload their own personal stems, and they share it. Say, you go ahead and use these stems to feed them into
Yeah.
AI, and they do all these really incredible things, and they have their own sort of competitions around that and stuff. And then you have people that, and you would have seen that people, I have a lot of people that communicate this to me, and you would see the same. I've been writing poems since the 1970s, or writing songs, and I've had no way to distribute those. And they feed their poems in, and they go, and some of them, like, they're not overly musical when they do that. Their poems are the words are the strong part. But I like that there's people that basically have had no writing, no musical, and they come into these watch parties, and they become friends with other people that have skills in these areas, and
Yeah.
use AI in different ways, and can learn off of those people. And then they start find their own path through that. Like, like what you're saying about like everybody uses it different, like some people have no idea, they are just pushing a button but they want to know more, and people are very much students to this process, and then
Yeah.
they have their own thing and then people can learn off them. I find the community to be very positive and very giving, is what I find.
Yeah, if you can connect to it, I think that's right. You know, and I started by pushing buttons, and if I look back at some of the earliest things that I made, it's like, okay, that's complete slop.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it was through meeting people and through getting inspired by what they make and through connecting with them and learning from them. That song that I told you about, the collab that I did with this woman in Sweden, is like she taught me a lot about song structures and so on and rhyming and how to make that. And it's, I think of that as the scaffolding or the tools that allowed me to be myself and to tell the story that I want to tell in a way that actually works, in a way that makes sense, in a way that makes it musical, that makes it, like you said, something that's not too direct, too obvious, too AI, too ChatGPT or whatever, but something that actually people listen to, and then they have the freedom to interpret in their own way, right? And it's still the story that I wanted to tell, and it comes across, right? um, you mentioned people who maybe weren't as artistic before and whatnot, right? But I think even if it's someone who was just writing poems and doesn't know much about music, even if it's someone that never touched music in the past but just listened to a lot of music, people over time learn from the journey that they were on in terms of the things that they even like and they connect to. And so, if you have a poem that you wrote and means something very deep to you, right? That you wrote it at a time when you were going through something, there's emotion in it, and you're going to put it to music, you will know if you're running all these generations, is this the emotion that I was feeling or not? If when you hear the right thing, you will feel, does this connect? Does this tell the story? Does this feel like what I was going through, and so on? And I think, sometimes it's not super easy. Like you need to get the prompt right, or maybe I don't even know the words, how to describe this feeling in music, right? Like, yes, there's a learning process in there, but the biggest piece of it is making something that sounds right to you, that connects with you, that is authentic. And when you hit that, I think that comes across.
yeah. And I think, and we'll talk about what these watch parties are. That's what I like, and several of us do watch parties now, and I love, because I wouldn't be able to do it all myself, and Teamuth wouldn't be able to do it all. It would be meaningless because you show 20 or 30 or 50 songs. It would be 20, 30, or 50 songs a week, and that would be it. But I think people need to be heard or feel like they're being heard, and I think those watch parties, like I always say to the people, like I don't understand how this sort of thing happens out. It can't, like, it doesn't happen outside of what we do, right? Like people will go in, so I'll just frame it, so you generally, what happens is, we have a live session, me, Teamith, you, some other people. We all have these watch parties, and we do it on Twitch, or we do it on YouTube. We'll schedule a time, and people submit all their AI music, usually through AI Play, but it could be through anything else. And if you don't know what AI Play is, I won't go into that, but it's a thing you can do that. And then we'll usually either randomly or in some way select people's songs to play the whole song for a watch party. I might get 50 or
Sure.
70 people in mind. The watch parties typically for me will go 2.5, 3 hours. For Teamith, they go like probably 80 hours straight. I don't know how he does it. And yours go over several days because you have competitions and things. What amazes me about those is people submit the songs, and maybe someone's song is randomly selected first. Those people will still sit for 3 hours and listen to everybody else's songs over 3 hours or 5 hours or whatever it is. To me, that in itself is, for one thing, proof that people in this community like are like loving people that love music and do want to connect to other people. But it also proves, like, that people say that this whole scene is soulless and it has nothing in it.
Oh,
Like, why would you sit there for 3 to 5 or over several days to listen to other people's AI music when there's no vested interest in it for you, because your song's already been played on the first day in the first hour anyway?
I'll tell you what I hear in these listen parties, right? And it's what you described. People bring their own music, and then they get together around some sort of reason for it. And sometimes it's the only reason is this is happening, so let me
Yeah.
show up and listen to the thing. Sometimes it's more around some sort of contest or theme or whatnot. This week, just yesterday, we did the stream with a world famous poet who translated poetry from the 13th century from Rumi into English. And I met him a couple of months ago. I reached out because I loved the poetry, and I found out that he was already making songs with Suno. And we did a whole event around that, around poetry from the 13th century that is so deep and so meaningful. And we had a whole event around it. So there's like sometimes there's a specific theme and an event behind it, etc. But what I find happens is when people are present to listen, the music just sounds better.
Mm.
Imagine if you're playing a song on Spotify or on YouTube, it's somewhere in the background, you're busy doing other things, whatever, right? When you're there live with other people, and we do this on Twitch, and there's, you know, emojis and dancing dinos in the chat, and people are commenting or whatever, there's a real sense of presence of you're coming together with people all around the world for the purpose of listening, right? And when you're actually present and listening, music sounds better. And we also, when we do it, there's somebody on screen, there's people on screen vibing to it. If it's a sad song, if it's a dance song, if it's like with some
Yeah.
of the bands that I bring
Yes,
out,
there
some
you go. I
of
was going to say, who's the best viber out of your team? I think I know, but you're all good
them.
vibers.
There's some. It sounds so silly. Like, what is this thing that you do? You get together and you listen to music and you vibe to it. I don't even know what it is. I've had so many conversations with people who can't even conceptualize what that looks like, right? Because there's nobody singing, there's nobody playing any instrument, there's nobody DJing. Like, what is this? What's live about it, right? But the live is just the presence of you're there in the presence of other people who are there to listen, to pay attention. And when somebody sees their song and there's somebody listening to it and vibing to it on camera or in chat, and they're dancing to it with emojis, or they're saying, oh my gosh, I just got chills because this was so moving, right? It's, the energy builds, and it's not just for your song, but when you see that happening, you have to vibe, you have to reverberate that to everybody else that's there. And it doesn't happen all the time, but in the good streams, when the energy is hitting, like you leave that stream, you are energized. Like, wow, the music here is so great, the energy, the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, I always, well, 90% of my live streams I co-host with my buddy Scott Dunlap, who does Wolfpack Records. He was in the music industry for years, right? Like in the evil music industry. And he will message me, especially after he feels like it was a really good live stream, and he's just say, I can't come down. I'm too hyped up. I'm too energized at the moment. Like this is stuff that he tells me he just loves it, and we always feel it at the same time too.
You feel it, right?
You do.
It's like you feel it, right? There's a vibe there, which is the vibe is not just the music, but it is the music, and it's seeing and being present with other people who are seeing it too, and who are witnessing it. I would almost say, right? And when you imagine you're going to any live concert, actually, right? So there's a singer, there's a band, there's somebody on stage, but then you've got like a massive audience all around you, and you look in their eyes when when the singer hits that note or the drop hits or whatever, right? And that's such a huge part of the experience, is being there with other people. Imagine you were just the only one person in the crowd, and whatever, Lady Gaga, Madonna, or whoever is up there on stage, but you're the only person there. Something would be missing from it,
But the listening parties are kind of like, there's an entire crowd, and then because it's a roulette wheel and it's randomly chosen, the crowd is inside one of those arcade things where the claw goes and grabs a random person out and then goes and drops them on the stage. And for that, AI music is 7 minutes. For those 7 minutes, Yeah, like
Not
for that
always.
7 minutes, the entire crowd is focused on you, and that's your moment, and you can just enjoy it. And I think the crowd knows that that moment is special for that one person, and you know they paid the ticket to make that person on stage feel special in that moment, and that makes them feel good too. And then they basically get pulled out, and that person goes back in the crowd, and the claw picks him up. It's a random person on pussy, and then everybody's focused on that one person. I love it. You
Yeah.
can't, you couldn't as a business say like, yeah, so here's a good idea. We're gonna get a whole bunch of people who aren't famous, and we're gonna get them. We'll guarantee they're gonna sit there from 3 to 5 hours listening to other people's AI generated music, and that's what's gonna work. That people are totally gonna do that, but it's something that's happened. It works.
I, yeah, no, I know. This is like if you try to sell that story, it's like what? That doesn't make sense, but it does work.
Yeah,
And that's like literally that's the only reason I'm still here and still making music is because we have that ongoing engagement, all those opportunities to get together with people to do that, right? Because when you do that, it's not just the listening piece of it, but you get inspired. You're like, oh my gosh, I've never heard anybody do an instrumental piece just like that. Or that guitar riff was out of this world. Now I'm inspired to try and create something like that, maybe in my own, genre, in my own voice or whatnot, right? You get so much from it and it just motivates you to do more. It motivates you to create. There's this whole creative bubbling of that happens within that space, and especially when you see the reactions and people reacting to it and vibing off of it, it encourages you because
yeah. Dude, I could talk about watch parties for like a million years with you, because I think we're pretty much in line with those, and we get it. And actually, just it's funny just sitting here talking about it. Like I'm like laser focused on your face because I get what you're saying, and I'm like feeling the watch parties as you're talking about, because you're articulating
uh,
so much what I'm feeling when I go to them. But let's move on for them, because I
sure.
think we can leave that for the comments. Like I said, I'm happy to. We'll talk about this offline too. Um,
Mm.
One thing that I found was interesting too is as you said, the AI music scene in Miami is huge, and you catch up once a week. Like,
Just
please
the
talk
AI.
about that, because that's hugely fascinating to me.
No, that was just the AI community in Miami. We have a very bubbling AI community in general, not AI music
Ah,
specifically,
okay.
but AI in general that covers everywhere from developers to artists to people in general industry, from real estate to law to whatnot. That gets together really regularly here in Miami to learn from one another. Miami, I think a lot of people moved to Miami from other places, maybe during the pandemic and so on. And there's a lot of interest in tech and with the AI, of course, right? So it's more about that, not necessarily music specific. But for example, just in October,
Yeah,
Timothy
I was going
and
to
I,
segue to this, if that. So you're talking about your meeting with like 11 Labs and Tmouth and all that stuff, right?
we held an event here in Miami that
Yeah.
brought together people from all sorts, all walks of life, from from musicians to tech folks, etc., to give not just a presentation but a hands-on experience with AI music. And we brought together um, folks from Producer who were there live with us on a stream, and we got invites from Suno and from 11 Labs for people to just try and be hands-on with some of these AI music models to create music there live with us. Right? We gave a few ideas for folks in the crowd on like what that we crowdsourced from what songs we should make and so on. And then we had a little bit of a music contest right there in the room and played some great songs. And we had things from like some very dark vibey things to house music, more 90s style. Like there's one person there, she's a DJ for a dance group, for a particular type of dance, which is Brazilian zouk. And she was like, this was her first time trying anything with AI to make music, even though she's been a DJ. And and she's like, wow, very surprised that the AI was able to pick up on the style that she wants, the style that she looks for, that works really well with the kind of dance popular in her community and everything, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's not just to press a button and something generic comes out, but when you put yourself into it and all the diversity of different things that people vibe with, right? That's when magic starts to come out of that.
Yeah. So you're physically in a room with people, and sort of doing that. And there's stuff to be said about that. And I always wonder about the future of AI music events, because I've done like a lot of I've gone to a lot of like, e-commerce selling events, or I've gone to like some just smaller, like, like business events and stuff where people get together and they come from interstate. And I've hold like LAN parties. Like I used to hold LAN parties
Yeah.
back in the early 2000s, where people all over Australia would come to Melbourne, and I'd host it in a scout hall or something like that. And there's something like, I know by nature, like a lot of the stuff that we do is, you know, online. And I think a lot of people by nature in our community are afraid to put themselves out there. And that's one of the reasons I ask for people to do intros when I feature their songs the best they can. Like I know some people are being strong and then showing their face on camera and introducing their channel. I don't I don't demand that they do it that way. I'm just really excited that they do. Actually, when people do that, I get a little bit more emotional. I kind of joked about being an alpha because I'm not at all. I sort of get a little bit emotional when I know people are shy or afraid to put themselves out there, and they do anyway for that 30-second, 1 minute intro into the channel. I think it's very brave of them, and I love it. I
Sure.
think that's one of the reasons why this is good tech. But I also think the next step of that is, as this tech goes on and as we figure out at some point whether this is going to continue in its current form, I think people should be getting in rooms like what you did in that group with 11 Labs and Producer and Suno and all them, and then collaborating in that way. There's something said about people getting in a room and touching each other's hands and talking face to face. There's something about that too that needs to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like music and in general art, they don't necessarily mean much unless they lead to some sort of connection. It's
Mm,
like if I'm able to express something, if nobody hears it, then there's the value of having going through the creative process and expressing it to myself and everything. But it takes on a whole new meaning if somebody else hears that and
mm.
suddenly realizes, wait, what this song is about, I also connect to, right? And there's a human connection that's formed there. And to me, this is the magic that's happening here. It's not, oh my gosh, you've got an AI engine that can generate 700 songs in a minute
Mm.
and it costs you 8 cents per song. Like that's not it, right? It's not an automated radio station that just plays AI automated music all the time. That's not it. It's really the ability to allow any single person on the planet to express themselves and their point of view and make that accessible. Because imagine having to go into a studio and maybe you've even spent 15 years playing an instrument, but you
That's probably
can't,
technically exactly how many years I spent playing an instrument.
right? But like, and me too. I played the flute and the recorder growing up for
Mm.
that long, right? But then if I want to go up there and express myself, it usually will be in some as part of an orchestra or a band, or if I wanted to record anything, right? Like go into a studio and do something, and it's still I don't sing, and
Mm.
so or better that I don't.
Well, let's test that.
so the ability to still go and for anybody to go and express themselves and their point of view, right? Anybody in the world, and it can be your sister, and it can be your brother-in-law, it can be just a friend from college and whatever, right? That's never been that accessible at the levels that we have now with AI, whether that's in music, art, video, writing, coding, all sorts of stuff, right? And so I think just like Fujisimo, who's the CEO at OpenAI now of applications, she called this the golden age of creation, and I think
Mm.
that's exactly right, because anybody, anywhere, doesn't matter if you're in school, if you're 70 years old, whatever, can get their hands and start creating and making stuff, whether that's music, art, websites, whatnot, and it it takes on a whole new level when the thing that you created means something for somebody else,
Yeah.
right? And you make human connections to that. And so to me, this is the magic here, that through creation, people can connect to one another, can find that, oh my gosh, like there's a story here that somebody else somewhere in the world shares. We have the same ideas, we have the same desires, fears, whatever. And I think that's magic, being able to connect people through that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, because if there's occasionally there's people that hate the whole AI music scene, that's for some reason end up watching this, or maybe like they're on the fence, or maybe they're just curious about this topic.
Yeah.
And like I did a lot of research about when the phonograph came around, and and literally like all the newspaper articles at the time were nobody's going to ever learn an instrument, and it's going to take careers away from people who teach music. No one from 1920 is ever going to learn an instrument or be able to teach music. What about his career? So like, what do you think? Do you think this takes anything away at all? Like, do you think, you know, there's a possibility that it's going to become so easy for people to express themselves in this way because they've got AI, that like I think sometimes, like I try to think really, uh, I don't try to like dig in and say this is what it is and F all you guys. I always try to take, okay, what are they thinking? What are they people thinking outside of this? And one thing is, I think about when I was back in high school, when I was playing trumpet, and even like during rehearsals or during a concert, I remember feeling how magical it was to be in tune with everybody in the band, even in like particular moments in a song. And if
Yeah.
like, to be fair, like to be completely fair, if you're if you're producing this stuff, or you're putting this together, you can't feel that. You can't be playing a trumpet and be in tune and have whatever that feeling is, or even like the pressure of performing on the stage. So that's going to be good. So do you
No, but I
feel
think
that that's going to be lost forever and no one's ever going to feel that again?
these are different things.
Yeah.
These are just different things. And they're, even singing in a choir or playing in
Mm.
a band, or even, whatever. Say you play the guitar and you just come home and you just broke up with your girlfriend and you're just going to your guitar because that's how you express yourself, just to yourself and nobody else around, right? Like, or singing in the shop. No, those things are still um, ways to connect with something, with music, with the ability to produce music, to make music, to express yourself, and all. None of that is going to go away, right?
Mm.
This is just there's a new form, there's a new way for people to express themselves that allows people that have been writing poems for decades or years or whatever to do something that they were never able to do that before, or who play one instrument to now create with that, or who've never played an instrument to go and play around with it and say, I love this kind of music. Wow, now I can make it. Wow, how incredible is that? I'll give you an example. I
You give
just
your example. I want to give an example too. Good, do it.
Sure.
Please, you don't
I'm
take my example.
I love classical music, and I love early classical music, especially that comes from 400, 500 years ago, whether it's folk music or Baroque music or whatever, all sorts of things like that, right? And I don't play in a band anymore. I don't have access to that, and so on. But for example, I was just at a concert from one of my favorite all-time ensembles, and I was just listening to their music was so inspired by some of it. And one particular piece, I was like, wait a minute, this song from 400 years ago is still so relevant today. I want to make that relevant. And I can take that song and I can create an EDM version of it, which is another aspect that I love so much, is like dance parties and raves and whatever. And so I can bring that, a song from 400 years ago that I love so much in its original form, but then create something new with it, right? And I would not be able to do that, just playing my flute. I would not be able to do that without, having spent a lot of time learning how to become a DJ and chop things up and recreate them, and maybe even getting like some musicians to record it in a different way in the studio, right? But now I have access to do something, take something that I care about so much and turn it into something else. And all sorts of stuff. There's just like that creative flow that you connect to
Yeah. Yeah.
when you
And
have
a lot of
something.
people never felt that creative flow until this tech was available. Like this is one of the really things I really want to push out is I remember reading a book, and I've mentioned this a few times, The War of Art,
Mm,
and a lot of it talks about he talks about like you can be creative at anything you do, right? Like, and I thought, okay, you can. It gave examples, and there was another one too, like I think the Icarus Deception sort of talks about this too, and it's talking about like you can be creative at anything you do, and a lot of people just think it's only painting, or
mm,
if you're a musician in the traditional sense, but this opens up the door for people to be metaphorical, to connect to the music and the way that their thoughts are coming through, and all that. That tech totally opens people to be creative in an artistic way, other than their IT job. I always tried to be creative in my IT job after I read those books. Let me give you an example of one, and there's so many examples like this that come through. This is a more recent one. I used to talk about the drummer from the band. Now I'm going to give you a more recent one, so it's relevant. A guy used to be this dude used to be a singer, and he used to sing in bands, and this is a while ago. He got throat cancer. He
mm,
lost his voice completely. Obviously he can't sing anymore, and even if he tried it, what bands are going to take him on unless it's like to the comeback
sure.
tour and everybody can be emotional and feel what he's feeling and all that. But he wants to create music, so what he did is he uploaded samples of his own voice from when he was singing, um, and then he mix it with the type of music that he wants to do through Suno. So it's his own voice, and he gets to connect to people with his own voice. He gets to hear his own voice singing again, and that's
Yeah,
real. It's not a fake thing because
yeah,
these LLM sampled stuff from other people. It's very real. It's impactful, even if it was just impactful for him. It's impactful.
yeah, yeah. 100%. We have so many stories of that in the community. One of the most moving things that we did for SSE7 is we just asked people to send in, like you said, 30-second clips, but with a specific question of why I music, in a sense. Why do I make music? Why do I make music with AI and so on? And we heard so many stories just like that about people who, you know, were in bands and then whatever happened, careers,
Mm.
age, kids, diseases, degenerative diseases, whatever, they got disconnected from it. And now they can connect with it again, right? All sorts of different stories around that about the access that people are getting. And there's something really magical about that creative flow. My artist name, so my name is Itai, but my artist name is I plus AI. And it's that, to me, is all about that creative flow that I found through AI. And several years ago, I was going through a tough period. I was literally depressed, and making things with AI helped reconnect me to that joy of like, look, I made something. And back then it was like image models, and it was just like very weird things that like cat faces all around. But like it was still a way to um, basically get into this flow of a conversation. What I would ask something of the AI, I'd get something back. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, right? But instead of just saying, "Oh, this is crap, throw it out," I was like, "Wait a minute, let me take it, let me edit it, let me change it, let me send it back," right? And then we get into this conversation back and forth, and sometimes unexpected things would come out. Wait a minute, I didn't ask for this, but if I stay open enough to that, I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
maybe that's interesting. Let me bring that in." And what I found was through that journey, through that conversation, what comes out is not 100% me. It's not 100% the AI, but there's actually something else that enters through the conversation itself. So that what comes out is like, it would not have happened if it were not that conversation there that's actually so fluent and quick. You can generate an image or a piece of music in seconds, right? I mean, it's not about just that. That's just a step along the way, and step after step after step.
Yeah,
That's
I've
the
spoken
creative
about
flow.
this too. I've spoken about this too, and I've asked songwriters, because one of the things I like about this sort of space for us is we get to tap into people who've had different experiences. And I used to find myself like I was a bit of a fraud going through that process that you're talking about right there. That the end song isn't completely what I intended it to be at the start, because some things happen along the way, part of the creative process, which I
Yeah,
didn't think it was a creative problem. I thought, oh, I'm just cheating because the AI is giving me these
no,
ideas and I've gone with them, right? And people
I
that have
think
been in the space, go, yeah.
no, but I think that's exactly the creative process because you
Mm,
go into it, you don't necessarily know what you want, right? I feel it's like it helps you draw it out of yourself. It's like, for example, I'll ask AI, "Hey, I'm feeling this feeling. I'm not quite sure how to express it in music. Give me some styles of like what will it look like? What are the instruments? What are the things?" And it will give me some things like, "Oh, yes, that's the thing that I was looking for," right? So it can be as part of the ideation, or let's say I put some lyrics into the engine and I'll get some music coming back from it, and then I'll hear it which is different from reading. I'll hear it now in my ear in the music, and I'll say, "Oh, you know what? Actually, no, that's not the right tension. That's not the right meter to it, or whatever. I'll change the words around, or I
mm.
change the prompt around, whatever." So I think that is exactly the creative process. It's maybe to me, it feels more like sculpting, and I'm sure I've heard this quote before of like, you start up with a block of stone and then you discover what's on it on the inside of it because you chip away at it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You don't
Yeah, that's right. You don't
necessarily
know what's on the inside of the stone. You can't see what's in the inside of the stone until you get there.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I absolutely think this is a creative process. It's different, and not everybody, people who haven't experienced it won't necessarily understand it, but
Yeah.
it works, and it's magic.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I've been reaffirmed by, well, like I said, those people that have been writing for years and been in music for years, that is part of the process. Like it does change. And the more time you spend writing, it just becomes more and more. And sometimes it's not completely different than what I intended, just the message of how I intended to get it out sort of morph. But it's beautiful. I think if people haven't been doing that, and if you're just pushing a button and you're just going to it and you're creating, what they call AI slop by just pushing a button, let it go on. You're not going to get to experience that at all. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people that term or coin AI slop think that that's what everybody does. And I think they
No,
probably know that that's not what everybody does, but it's easy to build a straw man and then tear it apart.
yeah.
If basically you just pretend that that's all. So actually, why don't you talk about that? Because this term has come up a lot, right? And you mentioned it earlier, AI slop. What does that mean to you? Because I think to some people it means anybody who's ever looked at ChatGPT and had
Well,
any
I
sort of
think
output.
Yeah, I think that's where you get it. Is like if once you talk to ChatGPT enough, you start seeing these patterns that repeat themselves again and again, and
Hmm.
especially in AI music, neon lights and shadows and fires, like these
Window
words
lights through the
come.
window.
Yeah, exactly, these lights that come out, and when you just put in a request like that, "Hey, make me a cool song about XYZ," you're just gonna get the generic, the first thing that's gonna come out is usually just gonna be generic lyrics that came from like a chat GPT or whatever, right? And I think if you have not put yourself into the process, if you've not gone through that and done through all the steps of creating this and creating that, right? Then if you're just staying with this is what came out of the AI directly, that becomes repetitive and automatic, and people start to recognize that
Is very
write,
recognizable. Yeah.
in an email that you write, or in the music that you hear, or in the lyrics, or whatever, right? So there is definitely a lot of slop out there, right?
Yeah.
That is the term of the jour.
That's what the term is. If you've done that and it's ugly, it's slop. Just like any other traditional music can be slop too.
Yeah, but
And
again, it can be an email, can be slop. It could be a report that you write that you had ChatGPT write it up for you. It could be a business plan, and South Park has made like an amazing episode about that.
I want to see
So it
that
can
now.
be. Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about the slop here, and I think a lot of people who it's very easy to just imagine that, and it's very easy because there is real fear. Let's just also address that. There is real fear that, of course, this will have an impact on a lot of people whose livelihood depends on this, right? On making music in all sorts of different ways. It's very hard to make music to make money in music industry nowadays
Mm.
already, right? So a lot of things are going to become easier, and whatever, a creative director that needs some background track for their ad may not
Yeah.
need to hire a musician or pay
Yeah.
somebody to do
Don't
that.
have to pay for a whole studio and
Right.
everything.
So
Yeah.
there's definitely going to be an impact, and the fear is real. I think it's a natural reaction to kind of aggregate everything into this AI slop bucket and say anything that has AI anywhere in it is going to be that, because we're generally unaware or afraid of all that
So it's
stuff.
a
I think it's
defense.
very
It's a
natural.
defense mechanism that people have. Just
I think
dismiss it
it is.
and then just try to get everybody to hate. Like I said, that
I,
straw man, basically.
I don't think that people are trying to get others to hate necessarily. I think it's a natural reaction to fear,
Hmm.
right? And the fear is real. Like, it's not, AI is not good or bad. It can be both things. It can
Yeah.
be multiple different things, right? But I do think that where we hang out, and when we see what people are making with it, through it, thanks to it, the connections and the love that is enabled through that, for somebody who has felt so lonely for so long, to happen across one of these events, one of these listen parties, and suddenly not just have their song heard, but have themselves heard, right? And have somebody like
Yes.
reach out to them and say, I've been where you are. You are no longer alone. Like, you've got friends here and whatever. That is real human impact, like impacting lives. You were talking about people disconnecting from music for all sorts of reason, getting reconnected with that. Um, the fact that we are talking and we met through these events and
Mm.
we're on such distant places in the world, like opposite sides of the world, right? All this stuff is building connections and bridges between people. That is what art does. That is what music does,
Yeah.
right? And I always I also think that if music didn't want this to happen, music would not allow it to happen. Like,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
fact that you know we can create is not, oh, I took somebody else's music. It's like, it's a gift of music. It's a gift of being able to express yourself. It's a gift of being able to create. And when you reach that flow, often it just flows through you rather than like you made it. That's at least how I
Yeah.
see it.
Well, I'll address that too, because right now with like all the lawsuits going on and with everybody that's creating these platforms settling, you kind of get the sense that the intention outright wasn't necessarily for this to happen with all this love and people connecting. And actually, I get the idea. I actually, because I have a relationship with Suno as well. I got the impression that the communities popping up around it and the love and stuff like that was very much something that people that were making these platforms was they're sort of surprised or happy that it was there. But I don't think the intention was that there was going to be so much love and community and relationship building. I
I'll
think
also say, yeah,
what's that?
they're not nurturing it either.
Nah, no, they're not. I think they're becoming aware. They're trying to be aware of what's being said, and in a way, they sort of nurtured it because, like, I went to Boston and they asked me to speak at one of their meetups specifically around the community. And they allowed me to take film that I filmed there and put it out in my own episode. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's and I've got open communication. But yeah, I specifically, like, my contact there tried to get me get it so Suno could get me to do some videos around community and Suno wasn't really too interested in that. So I think it's a byproduct that's really, really good. And like you said, music itself maybe let it, not the companies that are running the tech. I think the
I
music itself basically said, here I am.
Yeah, I think any artist anywhere that is really tapping the creative flow at some point or another is going to realize that there is something else that flows through them that allows them to create, in a sense, right? Whether you're writing a book or you're drawing something, it's a lot of artists just call it a gift, right? And it's a talent, it's a gift. It's like it's something that you were gifted with the ability to create, right? The AI right now is an instrument and you can use it very poorly. Just press a button and nothing comes out of it that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Or you can really tap into your own humanity, your own perspective, your own process, discover the process sort of through it. And some of my most honest music, some of the most whatever successful whatever, are things that came where I was half asleep when I'm not quite sure um, what was happening,
Yeah.
how I wrote it, how it came to be. If you ask me, how did you write that song? I'd be like, I'm not quite sure, but it just happened. It flowed out, right? It was a moment in time. All the circumstances came together, all the inspirations from different things. The conversation flowed a particular way, and this came out.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to show at least one example for this. We'll have to splice one of your songs. Actually, in particular, probably that one you were talking about that you did the collab and you had your epiphany moment. We'll probably play that at some
Sure,
point during the
sure.
stream. So we'll probably wind this up now. I like to keep it like to an hour because I know my attention span when I watch things is
Yeah,
about an hour, and I assume which I mean my attention span when I'm doing this is different because I like to talk to people one on one. My when I'm watching stuff, it's a little bit different. Although we're very
sure.
interesting people, so we could probably go on for like 5 hours, and people would maybe take bathroom breaks. Maybe they probably take their phone in there like everybody else does, even if they lie and say they don't. Um, what I'd like to do is know when you're going to be joining me on a live stream because unfortunately, I was doing a disco one and you couldn't attend that one, and the secret's out that how much I love disco so much that someone made a an intro song in disco for my live events, and now that's my when I do the live events, that song is always there because I freaking love it. Team is like, I thought you were a rock dude. I'm like, I love all stuff, but I will absolutely get down to disco.
Well, you should hear my latest track because it was exactly that. Is this disco came out? It's like,
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get you to go to your channel. We'll have to link in the description down below what your channel is so people can sort of hear that stuff. But
yeah,
I'd love to have you on a live and
yeah,
you tell me
absolutely.
what sort of genre. It won't be disco because we already done that one. Although, I mean, I'm happy to do another disco one, and I think people, brought their A game to that one. But you tell me. You said you like classical. I don't know if we could necessarily have a
I mean,
classical.
I my thing is I love classical, but I don't make a lot of classical music straight
Hmm,
up. What I do is I will mix it with more electronic music. So for me,
that's
it's
awesome.
either really emotional things like the moment comes and I'll just have to express it and something comes out of it, or electronic music,
Hmm,
more upbeat house, dance versions of anything.
yeah.
So that's my jam.
Yeah, I will definitely do upbeat house. I guess house is like a derivative of disco anyway, so I could cheat
Yeah.
and bring it in with that. Um, but I know I already know some people immediately like I'm not. They will absolutely not make songs when it comes to EDM or house or anything of that electronic stuff. But they'll be there anyway, even though they say they won't. I would love to do that. Actually, we'll plan that for the future. Some house
Right?
EDM. I know people love to live in that space, and I haven't set the challenge out because what I do for mine, I don't always do a challenge every week, and it's on a Sunday night for you. Sometimes they say just give me your best songs or your most
Mm,
recent songs. I
no.
know some people don't want to basically rush to put a song together, but quite often I'll put a challenge out, and I like doing the challenges. It's fun because if I do a disco one, if it's disc, what do you interpret that to be? And for me, it's do 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 pew do do, and I love the cliche stuff, love it. But I also like to see like, okay, well, you're a hardcore rapper. What do you think I mean by that? And
Yeah.
that's a bit of fun to sort of do. But I'll
Yeah.
definitely get you if you're up for it. I would love to have you.
Oh
And
yeah,
it should
absolutely. Would love to know.
give me your best impression because we'll call this an audition. You're not a shoe in. You're not automatically logged in right now. I'm not necessarily going to have you on my show. You have to earn your way. Show me an
Ah,
impression of what you would be like if you're listening to some house or EDM stuff. You're grooving. There's some stuff. This is an interview. It's an interview.
I mean, this is you've
I just
seen
got
the
chills. I just got chills in my leg. Yep, you're in.
no, but I wouldn't be sitting in this chair. I'd be dancing all the way there
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
back,
you're in,
popping
man.
all around.
Scott Dunlap, you're out. Itai, you're in. Actually, Scott will probably be there too. Nice,
The more the
cool,
merrier.
cool. Is there any sort of thing you want to promote? Because I always like to give people a chance to promote, especially give me an hour of your time. Something of your own that you'd like to promote. Anything you'd like to say to sort of part.
You know, if anything, I would promote the SSC, and this is it's not happening right now, but we've got a bunch of challenges that are happening kind of on an ongoing basis. Where this is the community that first drew me in, and this is all about bringing your songs, whatever you like to make, and having a space where people are gonna listen to you and connect with that. The next SSC 8 is going to happen probably around March or April of next year. But come join the SSC server where we have ongoing challenges. This Sunday, for example, we have a Make Us Sweat challenge where people created songs for working out. And
Oh, it's
unfortunately,
such
I'm
a
gonna
good
have to get
challenge.
into my workout clothes and do like push-ups and whatever to the songs
Oh,
that
no.
people made.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but,
Front
but
facing
yeah,
or back, front facing or back facing, because I think it's important for us to know that before.
well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people create. I made a video of some of one of my recent workouts where I was listening to some of that music. But anyway, SSC is such a great community where we really people feel the love around the
Mm,
songs and the connections that we make. And so, if anything, I'd love to promote that and bring people into it to feel the thing that we're talking about of connecting through music.
yeah, cool. That's awesome. So we'll do a link there. This probably actually this will probably be yeah this will be live next week, so we'll miss the Sunday, but you do them all the time. We'll get the link. Now
Yeah.
I don't normally ask this, but I try to because I have my own charity that I support, which is the John Fawcett Foundation. We're putting a trip to go out to Indonesia to basically see the work that it's being done, you know, for people. And I've basically booked a bus. I hooked up with another charity altogether who runs these things. They put a flyer out for it. More to come. It's going to be next April. I should probably get onto it because people got to plan ahead. Is there anything in particular that you want to promote outside of this stuff? Anything like
I mean, if
you don't
anything,
have
I
to. You're
would.
not a bad person if you don't have a charity that you support.
No,
By the way, so
I will say the one that comes to mind is the Trevor Project, which is a hotline for LGBTQ youth at risk, and when they need help and somebody to call and they're going through whatever, the Trevor Project is a hotline that they can call. One of my best friends used to run that, and it's an incredible organization that does like real miracles and helps saves people's lives. So if anything, I would promote that. That's close to my
awesome.
heart.
Maybe you can send me the link to that. We can have that in
Sure.
the description as well. So Itai, I've actually absolutely loved this interview. We spoke very briefly a couple weeks ago talking about how we're going to get this going together. I actually really suspected you'd be a good, caring, kind person that was going to be connected into how to articulate art and all that stuff. So this did not disappoint for me. I loved it. So thanks for coming on and having the
Yeah,
chat.
thanks for having me. It was a great time chatting with you, Matt. And thanks to all the listeners for tuning in and listening. And come have fun with us in the music and AI world.
Yep. Excellent. That's for everybody. Cool. So check all the links in the description, see what everybody's all about, and we'll catch you for the next one.